So yeah, Moodle and AI. Has anybody heard about what Moodle is doing with AI? That's good, because that's going to be really helpful because, yeah, I've been looking at AI for the last year now, and up until March, because they say I knew nothing about what Moodle was doing with AI. So this is really what we pieced together with what they've been starting to pick up with and the various things they're trying to do there. So hopefully this is all going to work. So where are we with Moodle and AI at the minute? Moodle behind the scenes has been doing a lot of work about AI, so we'll get that out there. You may have seen there have been various bits of coming out of Moodle Research Labs in terms of AI surveys. I think they're on to their third survey now, so if you've missed 3 of them, there have been 3. I did miss the first 2 as well. Martin has been doing the rounds talking about how AI is going to impact learning and transform that, and it's a really important part of the modern landscape for it. And Moodle, the product, has been doing some research behind the things in terms of talking about an AI subsystem for the LMS product, and also trying to gather the ideas from the community about what actually needs to happen with AI and Moodle in particular. Some of these slides, these aren't mine. I've lifted these almost directly from Brett Dalton and Matt Porritt, who are the lead Moodle LMS product managers. So these are slides that they've been doing recently at things like the Moodle Philippines Moot. They've taken a very high level approach to Moodle and AI at the minute, and it's going back to these 3 key things, which are interesting starting points from a software development perspective. I understand what they're trying to do. For me, they're a bit high up in the air and not very specific, but this is where they started from. And this has been shaping the way that they've engaged with the design tasks for the AI that they want to build into Moodle. Part of that, they have been working out, they've been abstracting out some AI subsystems. Now, this doesn't really mean very much to many of us yet. What they are keen to do, and the things we've been talking about, is that AI is going to be something that everybody in this room is going to be picking your own one, or paying for your own one, or stealing your own one, however you're going to get it. So one of the most important parts of it, they are trying to build Moodle so that it is AI agnostic. For whatever processes that will run AI, it will be your AI that you plug into it, not a Moodle AI. They are categorically saying they are not shipping an artificial intelligence model with Moodle. That's going to be something you'll have to go out and procure to do it. But that should allow us to leverage things like what Microsoft are offering, what OpenAI are offering. If you want to run your own local models, ideally that will be all integrated into that. And again, they've gone out, they've got their AI principles about it being responsible and it being ethical and all those things. So that's really to give an example of where they're thinking about it. The AI subsystems are looking at being this bridge in Moodle, taking these AI implementations, putting it into Moodle, letting Moodle leverage them, and then deciding where in Moodle you see them leveraged. And we'll get into a bit of the detail of how and where they're thinking about AI being exposed as a Moodle through these AI subsystems. And what they've come up with at the minute, they're talking about 3 sort of main areas: placements, actions, and providers. Placements, they are looking at where, as an end user, so again, I know a lot of us are learning technology, so we're also maybe a bit more interested in the availability to build with it. But from the end user perspective, they are talking about where can users pick up things, where can they interact, where in a Moodle page can they do something with an AI. So that's what they're talking about, AI placements. And at the minute, they've got some examples. These are all subject to change. These are all prototypes and things that they're throwing out there. It's things like being able to interact with a piece of text and then doing the next part, which is an action on it. So if you are looking at a page in your Moodle as a student, you can right-click it, click on it, and get the option to explain, summarize, translate, do something different with it. And that then goes into what they're actually defining as the actions that are afforded to people. Hopefully you can read that. They are talking about these sort of list of end user actions that you can do with a piece of text when you're interacting with Moodle or something, which is, you know, the sort of standard ones you can do with an AI just now if you just copy and paste. So things like summarizing it, asking for a translation, rephrasing the context in terms of that explain, ask a question, answer a question, and then it gets into the more complicated ones until you hit the bottom where you want to have a conversational interaction with Moodle, which is interesting if you think that how do I have a conversational interaction with a Moodle page, but maybe something we can understand if we think how do you have a conversational interaction with your whole Moodle as a student and the whole thing they're understanding. So it becomes quite interesting in terms of how we think about and how the data exists to do that. And then finally, we get to the really techie bits. So this is the bit that we'll gloss over. This is where they are wanting to build out the providers. They're looking at OpenAI, Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, so all those image graphics, AIs they're wanting to make available to do those things. And how it deals with you linking them into Moodle to charge or pay for or monitor or audit, and all those things are covered by the providers. So that's a shell of the Moodle AI subsystem. And you now know everything I know about Moodle and AI. So one of the other things they come up with, they've started to come out with some more higher fidelity mock-ups of what they want to do. So this is just an example of a bit more clarity of that explain or summarized concept that they're doing. Again, it's very much end user facing. It's like I'm looking at something, I need a bit more help with it. This raises really interesting questions for me. They've not shown us anything, but we at the minute we've got no idea how they control that. As an educator, do you want to offer that function everywhere in your Moodle for every piece of content? We don't know yet. And this is the conversation which I think is important for us to be starting to have. Feeding back to Moodle is, yeah, this is great, but if you put that on every single site, what's the students actually doing? If I want them to actually do the work and you offer them the opportunity to summarize it, it might help them, but is that compromising some sort of educational activity you want them to do? So the controls for these actions and placements, we don't know what's happening yet. So we want to try and track them. We want to shape that conversation with the Moodle HQ itself. Around all of the other things like that, so we've got the access controls, guardrails, all of these other things. These are really mundane things from an AI perspective. Conversations happening with Moodle, all of these are still black boxes which haven't been filled out. So as a community, they're there for us to think about what do we need in these boxes from an AI subsystem for us to do our work. If we deploy Moodle with an AI in the back end, what do we need to be able to say that is, going to make sure that we're safe from both the content we're putting out, the actions the students can do, and safeguarding the training and education that we're giving people in that. And then we get to the more techie bits in terms of how do we control also making sure that if we let them use AI, we as the responsible people can give that AI a little bit more hints about what it can, it can't do. It's all going to be built into Moodle. What are those things? And those are questions which a year on now, I don't think we are yet answering as educators yet. We're still sort of struggling with the existence of AI. Some of these questions are going to be really important about how we use it to shape the interactions that people have with it. So now we know what Moodle's doing. Back in March, when I went to one of the first Moodle AI research groups, the feedback from Moodle was there was nothing in AI happening for 2 years. That's November for Moodle 4.5 now. So it shifted a little bit. But as we can see, from what they've shown us, there's still a lot of unknowns in terms of that. It is going to be progressive. They're not saying that it's all going to land all at once. They are literally putting this together just now. So what we'll see is maybe bits and pieces coming out across different areas as they identify the areas they can deliver with most impact first and quickest. Hopefully, the prototype site that they've said will come soon will start allowing everybody to have much more concrete ideas of what's happening. At the minute, the other providers are starting to give us an idea of what they're going to provide in terms of their LMSs. This is the closest thing that Moodle is getting soon. In terms of Moodle on the roadmap, this is the roadmap. This was before they said they're moving up to November. So at the minute, you can't see it here, but this is actually just next and still to do. So actually, in the grand scheme of things, in the Moodle roadmap, that doesn't reflect real life of what they're saying. or it might reflect real life in terms of we don't know. So again, people can see what's happening there. It's all happening in the open. The conversations are happening there. And for anybody who does want to get involved with shaping these conversations, having these conversations, this Moodle tracker issue, you can't see the rest of it, is currently the linchpin for the conversation. So on the Moodle tracker, it's MDL 80888. Come along, have a conversation. Moodle needs to have this conversation with educators. It's no good me as a techie having a conversation with them. AI is going to shape how educators use it, and it needs to reflect what the educators need to be able to do to constrain or enhance the interaction with that AI. So we don't want this to be a techie heavy conversation. It should be about the educators and the education that's happening there. All the links on that QR code. We'll circulate them around at the end if you want them. So that's what Moodle's doing. At the University of Strathclyde, like I say, we've been involved for a while, and we've been doing a couple of bits of work to try and help explore this thing. We actually bootstrapped an implementation of Moodle's AI providers before they did. And we've made this code available online. So we have implemented an AI provider to explore some of the things we've talked about today. What do those AI providers need to provide in terms of access control, restrictions, configuration, management, auditing? And we're feeding that back into Moodle. The other thing that we've done, and again, this is where I found a lot of Moodle's proposed features to be really naive. They're about things that the end user does with something they're seeing on the screen. They're not really about using a Moodle as a source of information to do things with. So for example, if you want to generate a question out of your Moodle, you're going to have to tell the AI what the context is, what you want, what the shape of your subject is, what it needs to know to answer that question. We really interested, why can't I just I have a Moodle that has my entire course in it. Why can't I just say, use that Moodle course? So one of the things we've been doing, we have taken the default global search engine, which is Solar, which is open source, and we've extended it with a RAG interface for it. Now, for anybody who doesn't know or care, RAG is Retrieval Augmented Generative AI, and it's a technique to inject context into a large language model. So what we've done is we've extended this to basically index your entire Moodle. It will generate a vector search form, which is used to identify similarity. And it is now aware of the local AI providers. And when a plugin developer calls up one of our providers, they can get it to do a RAG query. So it's probably easier to show you what we need. So what we set up, and I was talking to Jackie earlier, there was a really good demo by the University of Sydney with their AI Tech Lab, which if you've not seen on YouTube, it's really worth going to watch. They built a policy explorer. They basically loaded up all the academic policies, threw an AI at it, and asked it questions. So we thought, like, let's try and replicate that work, but we'll do it in a Moodle site. So we've created a very simple Moodle site. It's got a policy, bunch of policies. They're all PDFs, which we scraped from our university website. And aside, they're all horrible once you actually look at the internal contents of those PDFs. They look really nice if you're looking on the screen, but for an AI, they are meaningless. And we've got some Moodle content on there in terms of, something about complementary procedure. These PDFs, when they're all loaded up, they've all been indexed, they've all been stripped out, they've been chunked, and they've had a similarity score generated in them. And then we have written a reference chatbot with a very simple interface. And we can go to that. We're not doing this live, by the way. So we could basically see that. And the problem that we're going there is basically tell me about the complaint handling procedure. First thing it does is it uses our Solar RAG engine to go, you take the user's prompt, it sends it off to an AI, turns it back into a bit of maths, and it uses that maths to find all the relevant documents to what the user's asked. So if I've asked about our complaints procedure, that turns into I think it's a 1500 long number, set of numbers, which apparently, according to the maths, represents something which is really about complaints handling. It will go off. It will get the top 5 documents that it thinks matches it from that Moodle site, looking at all the files in there and looking at all the Moodle activities in there, and it will then take that context and synthesize through OpenAI, in this case, a summary of what it thinks our university policy is on That's all we got. Yeah, tell me about our complaints handling procedure. And this is now, ideally they can ask another question about that, and it will go off, it'll find more information, it will interact that. That's just an example of interacting with your Moodle as a course conversation, that last item in the Moodle action slide. That technique underpins the ability to have a question generator. So generate me 5 questions on this course, or generate me 5 questions on this set of resources that I've already uploaded. All those other things that, as an educator, that you might find speeds up regeneration of content, refreshing of content, look at content that you've already got in a different way. It's all in there. This is the underlying principle for doing that. That's what it looks like in the background. It's gone off. We've got 2 documents here. One of them happens to be the PDF document of our complaint handling procedure, or internal review of complaint handling procedure. In this case, we didn't actually put, and this was part of the testing we did, we didn't actually put the complaints handling procedure in any of our PDFs. It was in the Moodle activity on the page. And this one here, this text here, that's the content of the Moodle activity that said this is how our complaint handling procedure works. So that's just the back end of that. So why are we doing this? We built all these 2 things. Well, the main reason, we've got a couple of things that we're working through at the university, which we're now reasonably happy to talk about in public about. The first thing is we're looking at a virtual chat agent project. One of our academics had the idea, he'd like a digital Steve that could answer questions about his module, what he teaches, and things like that, just interact with him. So we built some of this up because he has a Moodle course. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to reuse what he's already producing and putting out there. So a lot of this is looking at as a framework for a chat interaction with students within a Moodle course. What can they ask about? What should they ask about? Do they find it valuable at all? So we do some questions about that. It's also led to a much wider conversation across the university about a framework for AI, the use of AI. And for us, there's a really important parenthesis ahead of that, which is about the ethical use of it, what are the impacts of it, things like that. These top 9 principles, again, I commend Rail, they are the 9 principles that underpin Strathclyde's approach to the use of AI. And it has to be legal, ethical, it has to be innovative, we want to maintain the pedagogy and educational standards, so all of those things are in there. And that's what we've been gradually working towards. And hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll actually have a proper statement about where the University of Strathclyde stands on its use of AI for education in that. We've been approached about people coming up to us with really silly requests. One of the ones we had was actually somebody asking, I have Adobe Acrobat. Can I use the AI assistant in that? Good question. We've started to gather tool reviews of those sort of things. At the minute, it's internal, so we're kind of looking at, that kicks off a process where we are looking at service level agreements, how the product has been licensed. So if you license it, are you under actually different terms than if it's the copy that you bought through the university and things like that? And we're trying to collate those together so that our staff will have a resource to be able to say, actually, I'm using this tool. Has somebody done some due diligence about this? There's a really interesting question for that. Is that something we can make a bit wider with more people contributing to and getting a sense of what tools that may use AI, that slipped AI in through the back door, are usable and how they're usable and what things to watch out for? We've been available with a whole load of demos as well. So Gecko Engage, some people might have heard about it. They're pushing themselves as a student engagement AI. It will ingest your website and then offer you a chat interface to talk to your students to support them through registration or admissions or how to apply and things like that. Quite interesting, quite a broad topic. And then what happens to the bit that's outside of student engagement that's already on your website? How does that get used to that? Interesting. And we've also been involved with JISC Teacher-matic projects. So I don't know if anybody else has been involved with that across the sector. And again, we've had some mixed reactions to that as an AI generator. Interestingly, it's got a fairly middling score as a tool. And there's definitely areas of it which are a bit more tumbleweed in terms of not really providing a useful tool. And at the minute, our biggest one is the complexity level doesn't scale. When you ramp the complexity up, it doesn't actually get more complicated. It doesn't get harder, as it were. And that's what we're doing, sort of looking at our AI from our institution there. Specifically on Teachamatic, I think is a really good example of where I think Moodle and sort of tools within our learning management systems do need to go. If anybody hasn't seen Teachamatic, basically it offers you a big menu of prompts for certain contexts. So in this case, this is a flashcard prompt. And you basically say, like, give me a topic and tell me how many flashcards you want. And it will generate the front and back part of the flashcard, which is really good, except it stops there at the minute. Instead of giving you flashcards, it basically gives you CSV, PDF, Word, things like that. Not the most useful tools immediately. Good starters, it's done some legwork. What we're really interested in seeing is, like, can we take something where we take something like a UI, an AI prompt, like building some flashcards, and instead of a bunch of listed words falling out text, you get H5P activity. In fact, H5P does a really nice flashcard implementation. That's where I think the tooling with AI and that bridge to actually becoming useful tools for educators needs to be going, not necessarily summarize this piece of text which you're already showing on screen. So there you go. If we could go from that prompt to these flashcards in one step, then you go. You've got a game changer there, I think. Couple of interesting plugins just to highlight on there. There are a couple of local AI questions, which will use AI to generate questions. Unfortunately, that tool suffers from the thing that you need to tell it what to generate the questions about. And the AI text is actually one where it's actually using AI to look at the question responses back that the students answer and suggest feedback. So again, there are some interesting tools which, again, those two things combined become interesting in terms they bracket both end of that question generation and marking process that happens within Moodle. Just about done. The other thing, don't know if anybody else is, there seems to be a Scottish AI register coming along. So if you didn't know about that, it's worth highlighting that. This could create some interesting burdens on us. We don't know how wide that's going to be. Is that going to be, right, we're just using AI in our institution? Or is it going to be, no, you need to enumerate every single use of AI in every single process that you want to do? So worth keeping on, might create us some additional work as learning technologists who are responsible for those sort of systems. And that is everything I know about Moodle and AI just now. Hopefully that's been useful.